Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 4 of my Peacock series. And in this video we're going to go ahead and continue to work on the peacock's tail and also work more on the rock wall. And if you want to follow along with traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series, where I have a list of all the brushes and the canvas and the paints that I use. The app that we're going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android. And we're going to go ahead and start working on the finishing of the peacock's feet. And the peacock have sort of a really light grayish sort of claws on their feet, and you can't really see his feet, but you can see his right foot. So I wanted to go ahead and just show that. And you can put gray on the bottom of his foot, dark gray, and sort of show the indication of his claws, because of course they're birds and they have claws. And then here I'm just working and starting to zoom in and get a little more detail and to try to show the edges of the feathers that stick out on his tail. And I'm using a darker green, and you can use sort of a dark aqua color. If you're following along traditionally, you can use Hooker's green with dioxazine purple and add white acrylic gesso, and that just kind of gives you that dark grayish look, which is what you kind of want to use. And you can see that that is in the feathers throughout, and it's kind of the iridescent look that you get. It gives it that. And so I just wanted to go ahead and work a little bit more at the top of his back there and work on the feathers and start the refining process on the feathers that are on his tail and the feathers that have that sort of eye-like look, the peacock eye look. And so I'm just kind of working on it and trying to get sort of the same colors and just work on it again. And the eyedropper function, I don't talk about it much in Infinite Painter, but you just slide it out from the color and you can pick up the color that you've been working on. And if you're following along traditionally, you can mix up some more color, and it won't matter too much if it's not quite the same, because you're not through yet and you're still putting lots of layers on all these feathers. And here I'm sort of working on the dark blue part of the peacock feather. And as I've mentioned before in the previous videos, the dark blue color is kind of a V shape. It's not completely round. It has a little dip in the center there. So you have to make sure that you include that when you're painting these feathers, because it's just sort of important as to what gives it that peacock eye look on the feathers there. And then the outside of those feathers has usually kind of a yellow ochre and maybe even kind of a greenish yellow color. So you go ahead and make sure that you include that around the edges of it. And again, the peacock eye design is not exactly circular. It's kind of a teardrop shape, sort of. If you really, really look at it, it's kind of a teardrop shape and kind of an oval. So you don't want to draw them perfectly round. You want to try to sort of show that they're an oval-like look there. And you would also add a little bit of some green around the edges too. I'm trying to show the feathers that are around the eye design, and they're usually kind of a green and a grayish color and purplish. Like I said, if you get a chance to study a peacock feather, I would highly recommend it, and just do a study of one peacock feather and just see all the different colors that are in these feathers, because there's really a lot of different colors. There's an iridescent look to them, and they're just really pretty. It's why I guess a lot of people use them for decorating dresses and masks and all kinds of things. They're really quite pretty. And so I'm just kind of trying to get the look of the bigger feathers. And as you go further down on his tail, the peacock eye design on the feathers is going to get bigger and bigger. So that's what I'm trying to do, and also sort of get the pattern of how they go across. It's not solid peacock eyes. There's just usually 2 or 3 eye designs that go across on the tail there, and so it's kind of in pairs or in 3s there. And so you just kind of have to look at your photo reference to see exactly the way it works. But as you can see, there's not tons and tons, at least not on this peacock, of the eye design. So I'm just trying to kind of give that feathery look in between the eyes as well. Now, you'll have to pay attention to all the feathers that go in between the peacock eye design. And they're usually green, and they're also that purplish and that grayish color. And I'm trying to get that look of feathers there, so I'm making little short strokes. And if you're following along traditionally, you can do this by not putting a lot of paint on your brush. And you could use your number 4 flat for this, or the filbert. You just want the edges to feather out and look soft, and see some of the edges of the feathers and the individual strands of the feathers, and you want those to show up, because that gives it that look. Then it doesn't look like it's plastic or some kind of hard material. You want that individual strand look. Even though you're doing a whole bunch of feathers, you still can see it in the photo reference that the individual strands are sticking out on the edge of the tail. So you want to try to get that look, and you can use you have to use the darks and the lights to get that look. And then here I'm working again on the dark blue and the eye design, and you just keep you have to go over it again and again, and just keep refining it and adding a little bit more each time, and trying not to cover up the layers that are underneath there. And I'm just trying to get sort of the refined look of the feathers at the tip of his tail as well. And you have to make sure that you get the feathers that are on the tip of his tail also. And then I'm going back up to the top, and you just have to keep doing this. It's kind of tedious, but painting a peacock is kind of a lot of hard work. You just have to keep going over it. And here I'm adding a little bit more light to the neck, and adding some lighter blues there, just to give it also that real soft feathery look as well, because there's feathers up there. They're really fine, small, downy feathers, but you have to show that too. But don't kill all the dark underneath. You need to let some of the dark shine out and show up. And then here I'm working on his wing again, trying to get the wing shape, trying to get that iridescent look that you can see there on the edges of his wings, and you have to do that by adding darks and lights there, trying to go back and keep that shape, but you also want the edge of the feathers there, and so I'm trying to go back and add that look to it. And you just have to keep adding layers and more layers to the peacocks there. And I'm trying to add a little bit of some yellow and some yellow ochre, if you're following along traditionally, to the feathers that are in between on the tail there, and also add some greens and add some of those kind of things, and just add you have to add the brownish look, and you have to add the purple look. You have to add all these different kinds of layers and just different kinds of things to make this tail look fully formed and fully feathered out. And so here I'm just adding a little bit of some light purple, and you go ahead and add the individual strands on top of some of the greens, and that gives it the iridescent look. And I'm adding that just throughout the tail, trying to sort of bring that purplish look out that's there, and just trying to kind of get just trying to show volume of his tail, show that there's lots of feathers in it. And you just have to kind of keep working on this. It's not an easy thing to do, actually. And so then I decided to add the dark on the edge of the tail, and that just gives more depth there, because there's darker green feathers and blue feathers on the left side, so you need to show those and show the individual strands of those feathers. And you just have to keep at it, and it's quite a bit of work on this peacock to show the feathers. And so I'm just kind of stepping back here and taking a look at what it looks like. And in traditional painting, you would step back from your canvas. In digital painting, you just kind of shrink it down, and that kind of gives you an idea of what it's looking like. And so I kind of like the look of it, so I'm deciding that I need to add a little bit more of that burgundy color. It's kind of a burgundy purplish color, and so I'm adding that into the tail and making sure that there's individual strands of that showing up, and that it's got that real feathery look on the edge. And then you can go ahead and zoom in again and work more on the details. And I'm finishing out his foot there, and I added some purple to the bottom of his foot to show the claws, and to just kind of give the shape of his foot there on the top of the wall. So this is the end of part 4 in my Peacock series. And in part 5, we're going to finish this up, add the final details to the wall and to the feathers, and also to the ground in front of the wall. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support, and I will catch you later.